Farewell and adieu to you, dear Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, dear ladies of Spain.
That's right. We're still doing fish sauce. Welcome back to part 2, the Asian episode. I'm Chase W. Beck. I have a PhD in anthropology. Join me as we learn about the different ways food and culture intersect on Dr. Beck's Epicurean Delights. According to that sound, it's time for another round of Fish Sauce Face-Off, Part 2, Sweet Fish Sauce. In order to make Cambodian sweet fish sauce, you're going to need some fish sauce. A little bit of sugar, some water, there he is, some lime juice or lemon juice, if that's all you have sitting around, and a little bit of garlic, and some hot Thai chili peppers. So I'm going to be, again, comparing my fish sauces. I have the Colatura de Alici and the Three Crabs brand fish sauce. I was always told that you have to boil the water that you use in the fish sauce. I've seen recipes that say you don't. This could be a holdover from when water wasn't nearly so pure or sterile. But I'm going to be boiling my water today. It helps dissolve the sugar, and since I'm using palm sugar here, it'll help that dissolve down and make a nice clear mixture. So I'm going to chop the lemons that I have here and squeeze them out for juice. And I'm going to be making 2 separate batches, but you'll only be seeing me composing one here. The other one's composed identically, and you will see both on the stovetop, and you will see me adding the fish sauce to both of them. So that's all we need. We're going to go over to the stove and heat these up. There's both batches. As of this moment, they are both identical because I have not added the fish sauce. You heat the lemon juice, the sugar, and the water together before taking it off the heat and adding the fish sauce. So that's what we're doing here. I've sped this up a little bit so that doesn't take nearly as long. Looks like the first one's just about done. I got him on first. And we'll get the second one going here pretty quickly. There he goes. I think you know what's going to happen after this, so we'll just cut away and get back to the action, the mixing action. So now I have the sugar all melted. I'm going to add the fish sauces here. I have the Colatura de Alici already measured out here, and then I'm adding the Three Crabs brand fish sauce to the other pot, and we'll be able to compare the two. But what are we going to use to compare them with? I mean, this is a sauce. It's not really supposed to be eaten by itself, although it is delicious enough to be drank all by itself. That's for sure. It's quite nice. Well, first things first, we need to get to that garlic and Thai chili pepper that I was mentioning before. You take just a little bit and you sprinkle it on top, and you can actually hold these in reserve until you're actually ready to eat the fish sauce. So you sprinkle it on top. Sometimes they put in a little like toasted chopped peanuts. That's very good as well. It just adds another little element of flavor to the fish sauce. It gives it a little heat, a little pungency, a little bit of that kick from the garlic and the peppers. It's perfect for dipping. So I'm going to get the garlic in here, and then we will be able to test them out. And I think I know just the thing to make. I think that I'll be making today some summer rolls to test them in. I call them summer rolls because that's the first English word that I ever heard associated with them. They do actually have several names in menus. Sometimes you see them listed as fresh spring rolls or just spring rolls, but because Americans often associate spring rolls with something fried similar to an egg roll, I've found that summer rolls is the best way to distinguish them. I don't actually remember the Cambodian name for it. Anyway, it's basically a salad wrapped up in rice paper. It's delicious. So in order to make summer rolls, you're going to need some shrimp, although you don't have to put in shrimp. That's what I have, and we're going to be using a cucumber, some carrots, some of these small noodles. I bought them pre-cooked from the Asian supermarket. And then what Cambodians call sluk ji is basically fresh herbs. I have here a combination of Vietnamese coriander and a kind of a mint. And then these are the spring roll wraps that we're going to be using. They arrive dry, but you just put them in some warm water and they will soften up for you. So first things first, I'm going to get this cucumber shredded down. I'm going to be using my mandolin slicer again. The Cambodians often prefer the mandolin slicer to a box grater for this purpose, just because it does less damage to the vegetables as you cut them up, as you slice them up. I have a lot of methods in my kitchen for slicing things, and I think I'm going to try out a couple on a different recipe that I'm going to be presenting to you guys soon. Anyway, in order to soften up the rice paper, you need to soak it in hot water. I have boiling water here. It doesn't need to be boiling hot, but I'm going to be working on a couple other things while this cools off. So, and it will cool off over time, which means you'll either have to refresh it or heat it up again. So it's nice to start with a nice hot one. Just be careful you don't burn yourself when you're soaking the rice paper. I'm going to be cutting up these shrimp in half. I have some cooked shrimp here, and I'm going to use these to line the summer rolls as I form them, which gives a nice image because the rice paper is translucent, and so you'll be able to see the shrimp peering through the rice paper in the final product, as long as you get them placed perfectly and properly. So the good thing to do is to slice them so that those red stripes are on the outside. Yeah, get both red stripes. It also helps with the distribution of the meat, so you don't get like a huge chunk of shrimp. Of course, this is going to be dependent upon the size of shrimp which you're cooking or eating, preparing in this dish. So here I'm slicing up my shrimp. I think I should have just about enough here pretty soon. And then we'll move on to warming them. I'm testing the temperature of the water, and I have my rice paper unwrapped here. If you're unfamiliar with these rice paper wraps, they come out pretty stiff like that, so you can just shatter them just like that. And then as it sits, it softens up a little bit and becomes pliant. You'll see I have a little slice here that hasn't made it in the water yet. I put it in the water for a little bit and it becomes soft, sort of like boiling noodles. If you're familiar with boiling spaghetti noodles, as it sits in the water, it softens up. But with rice paper, it happens quite quickly. And there you go. So now that you know how the rice paper works, we'll be getting into making our own spring rolls. And the wrapping is not all that difficult. It's very similar to wrapping a burrito, if you ever try to make a burrito. So I always soak these one at a time. I don't know if there's a different method to doing it. But anyway, I stick one in, wait until it's soft enough, and then when it's ready to go, you pull it out and you begin to make your own summer rolls. I drape it on a plate here, and then I layer in the shrimp, and I go from there. You can't really see what's going on, so let me reposition this plate here so you can see what's happening. Try not to spill the water all over the floor or myself. So there we go. I have the shrimp laid down. I'm going to add a little bit of these pre-cooked noodles. And then some vegetables. Now the vegetables that you throw in here are not necessarily really strict. You can throw in lots of different things that you want. Although I do love the flavor of the shredded carrots and the celery, or I'm sorry, the cucumber. You could also put in bean sprouts if you want, or some chives. You could add lettuce inside here. But anyway, I haven't made these in a while, so on my first attempt here, it's going to be a little bit messy, but if you stick around and keep watching, I get a little bit better at it as it goes on. Now, I'm sure there's some people who've been making these for years who know exactly how to get the right kind of tension on the rice paper and fold in the sides very tight so you can get an even tighter one than I have here. I'll just have to keep on practicing, which means I get to eat more delicious summer rolls. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you get a little chipped or broken rice paper wrap. It's not really a big problem. Here I'm going to do a close-up so you can see my inexpertise, but you know what? They still taste delicious. As long as you can get it closed up and sealed, it's fine. Now I've had these pre-made from like a grocery store or a convenience store, and the problem is that the rice paper has a tendency to dry out the longer it sits. So it really is nice to make these fresh before you eat them so that the rice paper is nice and soft. I don't know. I think I did make quite a few here that I didn't end up eating all in one sitting. I left them overnight. They were all gone by the next day. And what I did was I put them in the refrigerator with in a Ziploc bag. However, the rice paper does have a tendency to stick to itself, which is good when you're trying to seal the summer rolls, but bad when you're stacking summer rolls on summer rolls. So here I'm throwing in the mint that I have, and then some of the Vietnamese coriander. And these just give it a nice, like, I don't know, just sort of a fresh flavor. They add to the herbalness, the herbal quality of the whole dish. So I'm tucking in the sides, and I'm trying to do a nice tight wrap here. And there you go. There's another one. And you can see the shrimp peering out from inside the rice paper wrap, and how sort of picturesque and it looks. Now, if you don't have the expertise to get those shrimp on there just right, it's not a big deal. It's going to taste great regardless. So let me just make a couple more for you here so you can see my technique. And if you have a better technique or a better personal style, you can just share that with me. I'd love to see what sort of designs you guys come up with. And while you're taking time to leave a comment, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. And while you're subscribing, I will treat you to a Botany Minute. Oryza sativa, or cultivated rice, represents the world's most important staple food crop, feeding more than half of the human population. Londo et al. Back in 2006 analyzed the DNA sequence of Oryza rufipogon, which is the ancestor of domesticated or cultivated rice, Oryza sativa. In that study, they found that Oryza rufipogon has multiple population centers. One south of the Himalayan mountain range, likely in eastern India, Myanmar, and Thailand, and the other in southern China. That means that Oryza sativa was likely cultivated at least twice. And if you think that sounds complicated, remember we haven't even talked about all the various cultivars and different forms of rice that there are out there, like sticky rice and purple rice and golden rice. And we haven't even talked about what happens to rice when it leaves Asia and gets over into Europe and how it's changed there. Suffice it to say that we're just going to have to take a deeper dive into rice on another episode. Archaeology alert. Based on everything we know so far, rice didn't make it to Europe until about the 1st century BC. When rice finally made it there, it joined wheat and barley, which were domesticated there millennia prior. You know, I think we've made enough of these summer rolls. Let's try them out. So, now that I've made my fish sauces and I have something to try it with, we'll jump right in and we will compare the two Tuk Trei P'aem, or sweet fish sauces, with against each other, using the summer rolls that I have made here. So I have the garum, the Italian-based one here, and the traditional Southeast Asian one. So I will try the Italian one first. It smells very good. So I absolutely love the herbs in here. And I love the way that they complement the fresh vegetables, which give you a bright crunch. It's just amazing. It's fantastic. And the fish sauce is salty and sweet and watery. It gets into all the little nooks and crannies in there. It coats the outside. It's really good as well. Now let's try the Southeast Asian version. And of course, I'm double dipping because I'm the only one here. Okay, now, you might think I'm biased, but the Southeast Asian one is worlds away better than the Italian-based dipping sauce. I'm not really sure why. It's got an extra oomph of fish flavor that I did not notice or did not seem to be a problem at all in the pulum particum, but just for some reason it elevates the summer rolls more than the Italian-based one. But I'm going to try the Italian-based one one more time just to be certain. Either one would be perfectly fine. Both of them are great. This one definitely has a fishy flavor, but it's a distinctly different fishy flavor. I think that might be why I prefer the Southeast Asian one. Yeah, this one's just a bit milder. I think that might be why the Southeast Asian one works better in this dish, because while there's lots of fresh vegetables that give you a great texture and a crunch, there's not a lot else going on here flavor-wise besides the herbs, and so the dipping sauce really carries the dish. It's essential for the enjoyment. Most places you go, you'll get a peanut-based dipping sauce, but it's the sweet fish sauce that is the way to go on this, in my opinion. That peanut stuff is, well, just leave it at home. It's not worth it. I'm not sure what it is, but the Three Crabs fish sauce blends with the citrus that we added and the sugar just in a more satisfying way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just my opinion, and so I'll be sticking with these Three Crabs in this application. Probably use the Italian fish sauce for more cooked stuff like the pulum particum. They're both great, but I would go with the Southeast Asian one for this dish. All right, that's me. Please come back next time when we have another episode of Dr. Beck's Epicurean Delights.